Welcome to the West Wales Lions development live stream, the first one. Um, yeah, that's basically all I have to say. Hope you're all doing well. I hope you're having a good evening so far. So, yeah, I guess we just get started. Who we got? Albert the farmer. Hello, good evening. Oh, shouldn't be showing you that stuff. uh, so, yeah, basically today I'm just gonna be building the West Wales line as you've been seeing on the forum. So yeah, we'll just get started. I guess I'll give you some tips, and if you have any tips for me, that would be great as well. So as I've been saying on the forums, I'm not really sure when it's actually gonna be finished, this route. Um, so right now I'm hoping for winter this year, but I'm not really sure, to be honest. So anyway, here we are. This is where we're up to so far. It's not the only place I've been doing scenery, but yeah, I've got a bit of a stretch over here then. So down there is Clarbeston Road, just there. That's a Fishguard branch that goes off there, and then down this way is Haverfordwest. This is where I was building last time, where that screenshot was taken. So yeah, so basically all I do is I have my Google Maps overlay and I just see what's there. Unfortunately, don't have a cab ride yet, so it's kind of just guesswork to see what the trees are actually looking like on the ground. But like for instance, there's a bush here, so we put a bush in. That's basically all it is. Yeah, so we're just going to be building a route today, having a nice discussion. You can get drinks, snacks, and just, yeah, we're here for a good time. So assets that I currently using are mainly the AP ones, but I also like using these Flexiros that I'm pretty sure it's the Southampton to Salisbury extension route, even though it says OTS library. I'm pretty sure it's uh, it's the Southampton Salisbury route from Just Trains, but I usually use the AP stuff. Yeah, so I'd rather not rush through, obviously, but so again, I've said before, I'm only doing this in my free time. I don't have all the time in the world to spend on this. So yeah, I think it's quite. I kind of want to spend more time than I probably would do usually on a route, trying to get the scenery right because it's a very beautiful part of the country really, and it's a bit disappointing that we've never really seen it represented before. So that's why I started building it. I kind of just wanted to do it, but then it kind of developed into what it is now. Um, so yeah. So this is on the trackside details. I usually use this asset, which is a 2019 asset. So I'm pretty sure it's from routes like Five Circle, West Coast Mainland South, and the newer South Wales Coastal, South Wales Mainline. Um, it just gives it like if you look on the overlay, it doesn't look entirely overgrown in this section. So I'm not putting embankments on this side. but it still looks better if I put grass like this here. So yeah, that's what I just put there. These are the JT asset bush trees. I don't really like them, so I'm not going to put them in. The question is why I put them in the first place. That is a good question, and I don't know why. So here I put in the ATS embankment because it's taller than this one that I've used before, which is the Southampton Bournemouth one. So I put in the ATS one because it's taller, so it can actually reach the bottom. Yeah. So this is a place where I'd use a flex row because it's quite thick trees. So I can just put a flex row in. Brings the asset count down. And they look pretty good as well. The odd VP tree there. But it looks okay. So the way I build routes is different to how you'd see from a big developer. So usually how a corporation, a business like DTD or Just Trains, they wouldn't exactly do what I'm doing. Look at the overlay and try and place things based on that. They'd actually they would glance at the overlay and get an idea of what it looks like around here, and then kind of place trees in a way, place assets in a way that looks realistic instead of actually doing it. Sometimes that can lead to some unrealistic parts, such as parts like the Leeds lines, the Huddersfield to Leeds line. Probably the reason why they originally, that circular building, sorry I don't know what it's called, they put in was incorrect, because I mean that's a big landmark and they missed it out. Another, on the Chiltern main line, there's actually a river in Birmingham that Just Trains completely missed out, which don't know how they managed to do that, but they did nevertheless. So we can place some embankment bushes on here. I usually use the ones from West Coast Mainline South. I mean, it's not that different to literally every other route. I just like the vegetation in the West Coast Mainline South route, so I use that mostly. Try and get an idea. So also over here I've been working on this farmyard kind of area. So this is I also like to use the West Coast Mainline warehouse assets, they're pretty good. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Obviously this isn't a factory, but from a distance it could be a farm building. just nice to have something like this over here as you're driving along. Just see it in the distance. It's good for screenshots. Here, there's something to look at in the distance. We can also paint this terrain on. So, it's some sort of dark grass. That looks okay. And just lower the opacity so you know where you're drawing on your terrain. Something weird that I found is this like ring of trees. It's a bit odd. It's got about the same colour, so I'll just paint that in there as well. Absolutely brilliant. When you're at a distance, it's better to use a terrain paint to paint on your roads instead of using an actual road loft, because you're not really going to see the difference between an actual road and a painted on road all the way out here. This is probably 200 meters from the track, so you wouldn't really be seeing this. So putting a loft in would just like be putting it in for the sake of putting in. It's not really worth it. So you might as well just paint it on, because a loft will take up more. It will reduce your performance. What I aim for usually is if I put my camera like right at the bottom of the track, I'm aiming for about 60 FPS on my computer, and that should give good performance. That's good. Let's look over here. Now there's some sort of track over here, farm track. So what we can do is, I like to use the VP roads. They're quite good. The only problem I found with them, because they don't have any traffic on them, so if you use a lot of them, it makes your routes look a bit dead, because you've got a bunch of roads with no cars on them. So in that circumstance, I'd use the newer DTD roads, because they look alright. And if we look here, it gets right close to the track. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that, so I'll just there we go. We can extend that later. It just adds a little extra bit of realism. When you're looking down, you just see a farm track. Might actually move the terrain up to that. And then we can smooth it out. Okay. So, where is it? Field. Here it is. There we go. It looks better now. It doesn't look that wide in real life. We'll also want to separate the separate each of the fields using dark grass terrain texture. It just gives some separation. There might not really be a separator in real life. It might just be a bush. We don't have to put a bush in, really. If it's a substantial bush, I might. But we don't really need to put a bunch of lofts that really you don't really need. So you can just put in the trees and that'll look alright. Now we've got a solar farm here. I'm not really sure. I don't know what assets I have for a solar farm. I'm pretty sure there might be an ATS. Solar farm. Some sort of solar panel. Okay, so I don't know. I found a substation. It's not really what I wanted it. Maybe it's in miscellaneous. Let's have a look. Let me look on the browser and see if I can find an asset. I mean, there's a renewable energy pack. So let's see what I can do. I feel like it would be in. Right, we'll have to leave it for now. I'll come back to that at some point. I don't really want to spend 20 minutes looking for an asset. So, let's see. Let's paint on this field then. I don't know where these fields come from. They're just there. I'm not really sure what I can use there. I don't want to use that. It's not really. It'll do. So we'll use this asset, or this terrain paint. Some people like to place their assets down before terrain painting. I don't really have a set way I do it. I just prefer. Sometimes I like to just do this first because it just helps when I'm trying to place trees around here. But before I place any trees here, like I might, if there's a bunch of trees here, then I'll leave these at as 2D. But if I'm not placing trees here, then I want to put 3D trees there, so it doesn't look crap. See, so yeah, we've got quite a few. It's a perfect place for this, and this is good. There's one without there. That's a good one. These like tree rows are really come in handy when you're doing stuff like this, because it keeps your acid count down, which you want to do, and it still has the same look. So I should mention on the asset count, if you want to have good performance in a route, you'd ideally want your asset count rural areas like this between 1,000 and 1,500 assets, ideally. But if you're doing some cities, you could get up from like 2,000 to 2,500. it really varies. Um, so, but yeah, around here I'm probably aiming for 1,000 assets because there's not that much going on around here. So I wouldn't want to be placing 2,500 assets around here because that would just be killing performance for the sake of killing performance, if you know what I mean. Keep going down, the tree line continues down here. Something I want to try and do is you're not trying to repeat assets, because it can kill immersion. Like if I, for example, if I repeatedly placed this maple tree, there might be very similar trees one after another, but you shouldn't do this. One thing that can really help vary your route is scaling. So there, that's less repetitive now because you've scaled one down, one up. And that's an annoying thing about the flex rows. If you scale this, it only scales this one, which is quite annoying, really. So AP do these mixed lines, but I find that most of them are quite spread out like this. I don't really want that, and the ones that aren't are very long. And sometimes that works, but around here you'll see it's not really that big trees. I mean, we might be able to make that work there. Another thing we can use is also lines from roots. So if we go here, so we have lines here. Bad example. You can use these. So these are good replacements. If you don't want to use, if nothing else really fits. So like you can use those. I think that 5 circle has them. That's a distant tree. Well, 5 circle is a bad example because it's in Scotland, but you know what I mean. There's loads of assets that you can use. If you're struggling to find the right asset, there's definitely going to be one somewhere. So there's not really a set place you want to start placing your 2D trees. So it really varies from what part of the where you are, or how many trees you've already placed in a certain place. So here, for example, I started placing 2D trees much closer to the track, because if I place these as 3D trees, that would just kill performance, and also there's already trees next to the line. But if we go somewhere else, like here, 2D trees start further back, because these trees are low down, so if you put 2D trees here, it can look a bit bad. So you don't really want to be placing 2D trees right next to the track, because it's not going to look very good. So yeah. Now you keep placing these flexi rows down the line. These flexi rows really help speed up the process. Especially in areas like these, it's just tree lines. it just helps you can move a bit quicker. Right, now we've placed a few tree lines, we can go back and place some embankments. Along the line. So we just copy and paste these along the line. You want to have your selection here on the bottom to home, otherwise if you set it to global, what will happen is it will just snap to the terrain, which is good sometimes. It's quite helpful, but other times it's quite unhelpful, such as now, when we just want to keep at the same level. Another thing we can do is place bushes down here. Sometimes I'll place 3D bushes along the embankment, but here at this point, it's probably better if we place these hawthorn bushes. Because you're not going to see these much. These different types. Just to mix it up. Another thing I should mention, you don't want to mix your type of vegetation. Because I'm using AP trees, I want to use AP trees. I shouldn't use another type of tree. Like I don't mix AP and JT trees because they look different, so it's going to look a bit weird. AP trees have quite bright leaves compared to JT trees. Apart from like the newer ones in the newer common library, but the old ones certainly have got very dark leaves. So these are those hawthorn brushes, they're not really making a difference, you can kind of see them there. But it's just nice to have them there because you know they're there. So we can put more embankments down here now. There's two different types of embankments we use. I also like to use these bramble lines. They're quite good when you're placing in, like, under the trees. So I'll put those in a minute, but for now I'll place these down here. So if you are building your own route, and well, I say good luck to you, and also don't skimp on your track lane. It's a very important part, and make sure to get your own gradients. So the website I use is called, if I just find it here, I think it's railwaydata.co.uk. If you go to that website, it's absolutely brilliant. It's got more than just gradients, but it's got basically all the main lines you want to use. Some, unfortunately, not all lines are present. So, for example, the freight lines down here aren't on there, so I'm gonna have to just guess the gradients based on the terrain, which isn't the best, but I've done what I can, and at some point we'll get to those. I'll start doing scenery there. I haven't started there yet. We can start putting these. Actually, it might be worth putting there. We're gonna put these bramble bushes in now. They look quite good in my opinion. They just suit really, just fitting in the gaps. It just helps look a bit more lively. There's actually stuff growing here instead of it's just boring. Obviously, if there isn't anything on the Google Maps overlay, then I won't put anything there. So I can go back to like here, for example. There's not really that much on the Google Maps overlay that you can see. It's just a few bushes here and there, and a massive swipe. This is. I feel like they've downgraded this because I don't think it looked like this when I was building it around here. But this is an older satellite imagery than the stuff over here, which is more colourful and it's much easier to see what's actually going on. Also here, there's just not really much going on here, so just place the embankment down and it looks good. So just placing that down, now you can see it looks a lot more like it's actually stuff's going on here. I might move these trees a bit further away. So you might have seen I've been using keybinds. So I'll just show you. So V and B move it up and down respectively. F and G move it left and right. Unfortunately, G moves it clockwise and F moves it anti-clockwise. So yeah, just in case you want to know. There's also C and N. They transform it globally. I actually don't know. It kind of moves it sideways. I don't usually use it because it's not very helpful. Actually, which way does it move it? No, it is kind of sideways. So yeah, that keybinds, they can be quite helpful. Something here. Another, also, kind of the best thing you can do is experience. The best thing is experience. Once you've been doing it for a while, you kind of learn where assets are, what assets would fit in a certain place. And so having the knowledge for that is just it just really helps. So as you start to develop, it's going to start looking better. So that's what we've got so far. That's what we've been doing. And it kind of look. I mean, I think I'd be happy driving along here. So I don't know if you guys have been watching my development time-lapse series. They're basically sped up videos of me just building the roof, kind of by name really. So they're good, but I felt like I'm gonna keep doing them before I say anything. I just felt like they don't really give a big picture of what I actually do. So I thought, instead of making an hour-long video and waiting ages for it to load, I just go live. Now we've got some wires. Unfortunately, there's not really many there's not that many assets there's not many telegraph poles I can use. However, I can't remember where it is. Yes. So this person, he has uploaded on the forums, you might have seen him, BD Workshop I think it is, makes these power poles, which are quite helpful. Unfortunately, they're American, so they're not entirely realistic, but a lot of British power lines are very similar to American ones. So over here, I've used his wires all the way back here. As you can see, I've used them up there, and you can't really tell that this is an American power line. So we can try and put something there. Looks like that's a dismantled one there, isn't it? There's a lot of power lines around here because there's actually, I think there's like 2 or 3 power stations around here. Or at least there were. I don't know. There's definitely still one that's still working, but I think because there's they were all oil and gas, or the oil. But obviously the UK is getting rid of them. But there's definitely one that's still working, so we could put that there. That's a good alternative. I don't know if we place it across, if this is going to be wired weirdly. See, that's going to go straight through the train, isn't it? I believe in real life the right. Oh, I need to annoying thing about power lines, you have to go out of the world editor and go back in again to actually delete them, which is very annoying. So now I can delete them. I can also delete the wires because they become lofts now. So I won't put that in for now. I might, if I find some assets that I can use that aren't wired and they look like that, then I'll put them in. But for now, I'll just leave it. Now, we're going to keep placing these bramble bushes on the other side. Right, delete that tree, delete that. We can keep going now. You know what? Actually, I know I said I wasn't going to put these bush lines in, but I might put this one in because it's so close to the track. So, I think for some reason, Bristol Cardiff assets seem to be the most niche. They have the most niche assets out of any other route. So that just seems bad. Let me try and use this. I think this one might be 2D. I don't know. It is. We'll have to make do with it. Can't actually see where I'm placing it, which is very helpful. There we go. I'm actually going to lower... The snap to train tool is very useful. Apart from when the bottom of the loft is not in the right place, and also when there's big changes in the height of the train like that. There you go. I'll place that there. I might put that one in later. Not right now. So here at this point, these seem to have... They look like forest trees, so I'm gonna put in forest trees instead. Actually, I think it might be worth if I go back here. I wish there was a group function in Train Simulator Classic, but alas, there is not. So I started making these like groups of trees that I can use, like copy and paste. But because there's no group function, that's terribly placed. Can't really place that. I I want to place it. See, if I place this now, it's gonna be. Actually, I'll just place it like that, and then I'll actually be able to move it exactly where I want. Hopefully that hasn't selected the path. It has. I'd rather not. I'd rather not select all these individually. Okay, that's just selected them. That's brilliant. So now I can actually move these up and down. If you've got any questions for me about the route, don't hesitate to ask about it. Stuff. I don't mind answering questions. So now we can try and move these trees further away because they're the ones that are inflicting on the railway line, and give the line some just non-linear nature. That's a very difficult word to say. Non-linear. Yeah, it's the end of the week, but thank God it is, right? Finally, end of the week. Let's keep placing these rows. Having this variation in the trees is very good. It just looks much better. So you're not just looking at the same trees over and over again. We've got some taller trees, shorter trees, bushes. Might be worth placing some bushes down over here because the trees are not as close to the track. Actually, I probably could move them a bit closer. There we go. So we can go into the AP collection of vegetation enhancement trees. It's no secret that the AP trees, the AP vegetation is the best. Although the JT trees are good as well, the newer ones. It's a shame that Just Train seems to be moving away from Train Simulator Classic. I mean, if it was like, a few years ago, when they weren't as good, then it wouldn't have been as sad. But they started to release some pretty good routes. But yeah, their older routes, i.e. Western Main Line, Chiltern Main Line, not the best. So that tree line's now a bit close to the track, so you just move it away, down. Try and avoid floating assets at all costs. We can just check down here if we've got any obvious floating assets. It's not floating. So, yeah, we'll check these. Okay. So we can keep going now. Over here we've got a sort of forest. Now, actually, what I'm going to do is, why is there an embankment here? A bit random. I'm going to delete these trees actually, because there is a way to reduce asset count while having the same effect. And this is the wonderful world of asset blocks. So essentially what asset blocks are you basically place these notches for the irregular one, which I'd recommend you use. You place these notches down where you want to have some assets. Just place them around here. And once you've done that, you have a bunch of these notches. Double tap, you can select assets from here. So I'm going to use the BC ones because I use this one the most. I don't understand why AP didn't do that anyway. They're not fir trees, are they? If we use a group, that's going to look stupid. I want to use the misc trees. Here we go. There we go. I've actually never tried to copy and paste these. It does work. I didn't think that would work. So if you do that, then you can change the trees so it's not the same trees over and over again. I guess you can't just change it like that. So it just means you can have, I mean, you can increase this number, which should make it. Well, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, so you see what I mean? Whoops. What I've done there is made an unbelievable amount. Oh god, why did I do that? Selected the wrong one. My PC is gonna blow up. And oh god. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh no. So yeah, don't do what I just did, because you may find that your game crashes. Oh, I mean, yes, I'd like to say changes, but please don't let this disappear. Okay. So basically, what this does is it, as you can see, it increases. It increases how much. Right, let me just demonstrate with not a massive number. So yeah, it basically just increases the amount of the assets that you've chosen in the area. So if the bigger the number is, the more assets there'll be. I've used it in multiple places. You don't just use it for that. You don't need to just use it for that. I've used it in other places for grass. For example, I think all the way back here somewhere. I've used it here for placing bushes. So yeah, but yeah, don't do what I just did. So I'm just gonna go get a drink. I'll be back in a few minutes. Yeah, see you soon. Alright, we're back. So, right, we're right back into it then. We can now extend our embankment further. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. So I think we'll have another maybe 20-30 minutes and then we can finish stream. I think mostly accomplished what I wanted to do today. So yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed this. Something different. And if you like it, I'll do more in the future. So I think here, this looks more like bushes instead of trees mostly. So what we can do is, well, I forgot ATS made their own trees, but they never use them. They look pretty good, to be honest. But again, as I said, you shouldn't be mixing your vegetation. So I won't be putting any of them in. So this line of bushes is the biggest. It's quite nice. Big bushes. Bush lines are the most helpful because placing bushes individually is pretty boring. So we can just place some more of these. I know I said not to repeat assets, but because it's a bush line, they kind of blend into one anyway. I'll put the bramble bushes as well, so it looks less repetitive. I think also we can use a beech tree. I think it's this one, yeah. Here. This is what I wanted. A very quite tall tree, really. Also, I posted on the website the other day a teaser for one of the unannounced projects. So if you haven't seen it already, I recommend you go have a look. It doesn't reveal much, but if you know your way around the railways, you might know where it is. So just placing these trees down roughly where they are. And as I said, I'm going to place them down some bramble bushes. Bramble line is... I'm going to place a 10 meter one because it's a curve. Oh, what have I just done? What have I placed? Oh, what is that? I placed a grass verge. Accidentally. I think I can use these as well. Oh. So another thing about Train Simulator Classic, if you're holding a keybind and then you go onto a GUI, it keeps scrolling. It keeps going up. So you have to press the button again. Get it back down again. So I've downloaded a patch that replaces the VP trees with the AP trees. So actually I have even more tree line and bush lines to work with. Bush lines are more helpful in my opinion. I think some bushes haven't been replaced, which is why they don't come up. But yeah, keep placing this bramble line, paste. Just gives something else to look at apart from the bushes. Breaks it up a bit. Much better. See, is there any other tree we can place down? There seems to be some sort of crossing here. So I believe the track actually comes up the embankment. So I'll see what I can do. If I place on the wrong one, road dirt. It does actually keep going down that way. So put that there for now. And what we do is see if I can. Actually, where is it? It's back here. So if I build it like this, just build a straight. Straight. You have to make it longer than you think. Okay. You have to make it longer than you think because you have to morph it. Now, what? This is the only occasion where I'm going to use the gradient feature of lofts, other than doing that, because as you quite unhelpful that goes up sideways. So build that across there. I could put some sort of crossing in. It just feeds off into the field. Oh, hold on, let me turn off snap to terrain for a bit. Put this dirt track down. There we go. We can leave that notch there. Oh, you gotta try and be careful when you're working with gradient notches near the track, because what can happen is you start affecting the track. You really don't want to do that. Also, gradients are the hardest thing to undo in a train simulator. Sometimes they undo incorrectly, or sometimes they don't undo at all. So it's really a mixed bag of what you actually get when you're undoing. So let's go back down the embankment. There we go. Now we can put some sort of crossing in there. Ah, here we go. This is where the gradients actually affected the track here. Now there's not really much I can do about that now. It's kind of changed. So what I'm gonna do is, usually I'm more careful about this. I don't know how that's happened. Usually it doesn't this happen, but I think what I'll do is I'll just smooth out the gradient so you don't really notice it. Might mean the gradient's a bit inaccurate in this area, but there's not much I can do about that, as I said. Right, for our last little bit, we've been streaming for an hour already, so it's not like you're getting short. I think, what's this? I'm just, actually, I think it's in clutter, weirdly. So there's foot crossing, wood on track, brilliant. Unfortunately, it's a straight crossing, so I'll just have to make do with that for now. I could try and build my own crossing using the pieces here, but for now, well, would it be better with the yellow? I think it looks better with the white. It looks more worn. So let's see how. We've now got a nice crossing on there. Make sure to save regularly, otherwise you can end up with parts of your route missing, or Train Simulator crashes like it usually does every now and again. You don't want that. So just saving regularly. Make sure. Oh crap. What I've just done there is click the space bar, and what that comes up with is this, like, this feature of Train Simulator, which is very helpful, but unfortunately it sometimes has a tendency to crash. Not as much anymore, but definitely before the classic 2024 update it definitely used to a lot. Or at least it used to before, on my old computer, but we seem to have survived that. Actually, hold on. Oh no. If you have it here, you think, oh, it's done now, but it actually shows signal links, but because there's no signal in the area, you won't know that. So that's why I clicked it again, because I thought I hadn't done that. Anyway, I don't know if we can just rotate that. So, I mean, if it was like straight, I think I'd be okay with that, but because it's got the notches in it as if it's a piece of track, I'm just gonna leave it like that. So I think we're gonna finish in a minute here. We'll just place our last few tree lines and such, and then we can finish up. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna get away with that. Might have to move that bit further away from the track. I think the train can get by there. So yeah, I think we'll finish there. It's been just over an hour. Hope you all enjoyed that. something new. If you did enjoy it, tell me, and we could do more of this in the future. So, yeah, I'll uh, I'll see you all at some point. Um, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the stream. I'll do more of this in the future, I think. Bye bye.